How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to New Mexico State Men's Basketball News. I'm Marshall, and today you're seeing the first video back at NMSU talking about Aggie hoops. The last video did very well, almost has 200 views in less than a week, which doesn't happen too often. A lot of times that videos will get to 200 or 300 views, but not that quick. It usually takes a month or two to get there. I did an interview with my friend Josiah Herrera. I can't say his last name that well, but he is the assistant coach at Mayfield. He's working his way up to hopefully get a head coach positioning one day, whether that's with the Aggies or with New Mexico Highlands or somewhere in the state or just anywhere he's given the opportunity. He'd rather coach boys basketball if he can, but if he needs to coach girls basketball along the way, he has a lot of high praise for girls basketball, so he'll do what he can do. I am at Hardman and Jacobs Hall here on the NMSU campus. So if you live in Las Cruces or go to school at NMSU or an alumni of NMSU, you probably know where that's at. Kind of in the center of campus, one of the bigger buildings on campus, if not the biggest. A lot of times I've talked to a lot of my friends and they say that they'll just throw a class in here randomly if there's a room open. And that's kind of what I did today because I was trying to film at Milton Hall in the Crimson Wire room, which you guys saw last video and previous videos before when I'm here on campus. I've been filming a lot more other places other than just my room just because, I have friends, roommates in and out, don't know when I'm going to be free. And, it could be loud in the background and I don't want to bother them with what they're doing. So I just found it a lot easier just to come here since, Milton Hall was closed. And I've done, I think, one video in the past here. I can't remember which video it was about. But in today's video, I have a lot to cover about some former Aggies, current Aggies, kind of similar to, previous videos we've done. And I'm going to try to be as consistent as possible. It's been a super busy week getting adjusted to school, getting everything paid for. A lot of payments I've had to make for school, dining plans, housing, books, the list goes on. So it's been kind of stressful recently, but I'm sure as, the weeks go on, I'll get more used to everything. And football season's coming up, so I'm super excited for that. As you guys know, as I've mentioned, I will be helping with athletics and media relations for the school as well. So I'm going to be really busy with that, as well as writing for the school newspaper, Crimson Wire NMSU. Also freelance reporting for the RTG Daily Press, which I worked for during the summer, which I wanted to show you guys some of my articles. But I realize if you're not subscribed, you have to pay to read the stories. So if you want to do that, I'm not sure how much it costs. I don't think it's too expensive. I don't want to give you guys an exact number because I'm not too sure. But if you go to our RTG Daily Press, just on Google, you type in my name, a bunch of articles will come up, and then it'll give you an option to pay to read them. So if you really want to do that, that's cool. If not, I totally understand. But let's get straight into this video. The first player we're going to be talking about today is former Aggie Shakir Onunweyu. Again, I really can't say his last name well. As you guys know, he was part of the hazing event. He got a lot of money for it. He was in just a really tough spot. But he rebounded his career, played at West Valley in California at a JUCO level where he averaged about 16 and 10, I believe. Helped them win the state championship, go 33-0. For those that don't know, California has its own league, the CCCAA. And they just compete all, California schools. There's over 100 of them. I think it's 120 total. As you guys know, there's that Last Chance U documentary, which I mentioned multiple times. I mentioned last video with Josiah. So West Valley was featured in that documentary, but Shaq wasn't there just yet. I'm just going to refer to him as Shaq because I think it's a lot easier. That's what a lot of Aggie fans know him as. He did then transfer to Cal State Bakersfield, where he actually played with former Aggie Jaden Alexander, who was also part of that hazing team, and now current Aggie Jamel Jones. So maybe I'll talk to him and see how those guys are doing, see how they're doing personally and stuff, because I know how they're doing on the court. Played pretty well. Shaq wasn't bad at Cal State Bakersfield. I think he was a little better there than he was at NMSU, but still not too great. So he transferred to a Division II school, Cal State Poly Humboldt. There's so many Cal State Polys, like D1, D2 level. There might even be some at the D3 or lower. I'm not too sure. But hopefully at the Division II level, he can, emulate into a great player. And I believe this should be his last year of eligibility. I knew he redshirted his first year with, head coach Jans, and then was with Greg Heyer, which we don't want to talk about him. And then he was at JUCO level, then back at the Division I level, Cal State Bakersfield. Now in his fifth year at the Division II level. And, a lot of D2 players, can play D1, but, just fit the system better. Kind of like Yak, who's at Oregon State now, but played Division II last year at Colorado. Or not at Colorado, at a Colorado school. So a lot of posts doing their thing, former Aggies, and hopefully they can just, continue to improve and maybe sign an overseas contract in the future. And if that happens, obviously I'll make a video about it. I also want to talk about one of the best Aggies we've ever had in the program, Charlie Chris Jr., who was a part of that 1970 Final Four team, averaged 13.4 points in his 3 years with the program, and made the NBA as well on top of all that. In the NBA, he played for 3 different teams, the Atlanta Hawks, Milwaukee Bucks, and the San Diego Clippers. Yes, you heard that right. There used to be a San Diego Clippers. And I'm pretty sure that there's a G League team that of the San Diego Clippers right now, just recently, I believe, just kind of like the Rip City Remix, who are the affiliate of the Portland Trailblazers, my favorite NBA team. In his NBA tenure, he played pretty well. 8.5 points, 3.2 assists, and doing it at just 5'8", pretty solid. I've seen some rankings where he's ranked as like the best 5'8" basketball player of all time. There hasn't been a whole lot of players in the NBA that have been 5'8". I mean, Yuki as of recent. I know Isaiah Thomas is listed at 5'9", but there's been times he's listed at 5'8". So you can kind of just argue there. Obviously, Isaiah Thomas is probably the best player ever under 6 foot, because Chris Paul and Allen Iverson are technically 6 foot. So shout out to Chris Jr. for just having a heck of a college basketball career and NBA career. Not sure if he played overseas, but I'm sure if he did, he dominated. Next, this is going to be a pretty quick topic because we talked about it multiple times. You guys are probably getting tired of me saying it. I want you guys to, comment in the comment section, kind of engage a little bit. What do you think the chances are that the Aggies win at least 20 games this year? It's really hard to say because we haven't seen the guys actually play in the court. Maybe some of you guys have been to their practices and been invited or whatever, but I haven't yet. I know there's a lot of great talent on the floor, both offensively and defensively, but I haven't seen it all put together. Not exactly sure what the starting lineup is going to look like. I have kind of an idea, and I've actually made a video about that in the past, so you guys should go check that out if you haven't already. And I'll make another one closer to the season, kind of give you more of an updated version. Whether it changes or not, I'll still make one. We also might not know what the other teams are looking like. I know some teams are going to be improving. Some teams might get a little worse. I know Sam Houston State had a lot of injuries last year, but we're still competitive in most games. Kind of like the Aggies were their first year under Hooten. They weren't really, they had some injuries here and there, but they were still competitive a lot. And, even though they only went 13-19, there's a lot of games they could have won there, just kind of like last year. Liberty's also going to be very good, like always, in every sport. They might be favored to win it, unfortunately. They'll be the team to beat in conference. I was listening to a podcast, not sure, Hooten doesn't know if he can get a Power 5 school scheduled, which would suck, but at the same time, maybe, sometimes those Power 5 games, some people want to call them automatic losses. I think with those Teddy Allen teams, those were, clear-cut wins sometimes. But now, with, it's been a few years, teams are getting better. The gap between Power 5 and mid-major, still there because a lot of guys from the mid-major level go to the Power 5 level. They have so much more money and stuff. Regardless if we do play against Power 5 or Power 4 school, whatever you want to call it, I think we can still get the win. But not playing against them could be a little upsetting. In the home schedule, might just be playing against a bunch of top mid-major schools and some non-D1s, but maybe that'll help our record be a little bit better. But at the same time, you want to play against good teams. That way your chances of going to the NCAA tournament and getting a higher seed there are higher. So from what we know, just let me know in the comments what you think and what you think the chances are of the Aggies winning at least 20 games. And by the time the season starts or getting closer to start, might have more of an idea, so maybe I'll ask that again. But just, would love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. I also want to talk about Tayshawn Eaglestaff, who is the newest member of the Aggie program. He's 6'7", redshirted last year at Kansas City. I think he had an injury his senior year of high school, I believe. And I'm not sure if that played into effect at Kansas City. I just know he didn't play a game for them, redshirted. Hopefully he can build, a solid role for the Aggies. It's going to be hard because he's coming in, as the last player. A lot of times in the past, we haven't seen those guys, be able to perform too well. Last year, for example, Xavier Johnson was the last player we signed, I believe, along with Marvin Cox. Marvin Cox obviously redshirted. And then Xavier Johnson only played about 5 or 6 games total, I believe, maybe a little bit more. But he only had one game where he scored, and that was 5 points against the University of Southwest. And he also used to play at New Mexico Junior College, which is also in Hobbs. So kind of some similarity there, went off against, a team that he's familiar with. And I know he might be like, went off, he only had 5 points, but he also only played a few minutes. So hopefully Eaglestaff can earn that scholarship. And I think with the work ethic he has, I think he can definitely do it. Very excited to see what he brings to this program. Another guy we've talked about a lot on this channel, I just want to give another quick update. Evan Gilliard II, balling out, averaging over 20 a game, had 24 points recently in the game, 29 before that, playing really well in the playoffs right now, and leading the Calgary Surge to an unbelievable season. A couple former Aggies from last season signing professional contracts. We talked about Peter Filippovich, Robin Carpenter, now Deontay Bostic, who's going to be playing in Slovenia. He just got done playing the TBT. I feel like his play there, he was second on the team in scoring in the 2 games he played, scored 20 over, averaged 10 points with 12 in the first game, 8 in the second. Shot the ball pretty well from the field and put himself in the best position possible to score a lot of easy points. Kind of missed some, but also did a lot of great things, facilitated, passed the ball a lot. Again, he was supposed to be a great scorer for us last year, but, still facilitated the offense well. Wish his scoring was a little bit better, which I've said multiple times. But I think playing overseas in Slovenia, not sure, what the competition is going to look like. But I think regardless, he'll play well, whether it's a scoring role, assisting role, a guy that comes off the bench, plays defense. We're not too sure. We'll see. I know we've seen former Aggies in the past dominate overseas, some not so much. I think Casey, the first place he was at, didn't do too well. And then he, went to another program overseas and, succeeded very well. So you just got to be at the right place at the right time. And hopefully it's that situation for Deontay. Christian Cook, who was arguably our best player the past 2 seasons and one of our best scorers without a doubt, has signed with KK Kostivar overseas. And hopefully he can just play very well and do great. I know a lot of people are talking about him possibly trying to, go to the NBA or play at a higher professional level. If he does do that, I think this is a good stepping stone for him to get to that level eventually. Nothing's impossible. I'm not sure what his goals are. But we've seen guys with, less impressive college careers, make their way to the NBA. So it's definitely not out of the question for Cook to do so if he wants to. kind of going back to earlier, we talked about the scheduling. The Aggies will be playing against Abilene Christian on December 6th over there at Abilene Christian, because we played them against at home this past season, which is the game Hooten got ejected. We lost that game 78-70, but I think it was a turning point in the season, because the game right after we beat UNM. I think that game really lit a fire in the Aggies and Coach Hooten and got that big win. So maybe if we didn't lose that game, maybe we would have been as competitive or as willing to get that win. So maybe it worked out in our favor. Both we can get the win on the road. And with how good we were on the road this past season compared to how good we were at home, there's always a chance that we grab that road win. That's going to close out for the video today. I really appreciate you guys for watching, and I'm out.